All right, welcome back. This is going to be part 91 of my presentation on the flood and Noah's Ark. And guys, before I get into the information on this video, I wanted to kind of clarify some things on my previous video when we were talking about the days of Peleg. And when I was editing, usually when I edit my video, sometimes I'll catch certain things. I should have explain that a little bit better, or heck, I didn't mention this, but at any rate, I just wanted to kind of clarify some things, correct some things, sometimes. And but on my last video, when I was talking about kind of the debate on what was going on the days of Peleg, I failed to mention the other side on what some people think that was going on the days of Peleg. I was mentioning how that whenever it talks about that in his days was the earth divided, I was talking about the confusion of tongues, and that the people left Babylon and dispersed out, and that would be the division, the dividing of the earth. Well, there's another school of thought, where some people think that is when the continents broke off. And if you'll notice on the screen here, you've got Pangea. Now, Pangea is just what they believe, that there was one supercontinent, and then the talking in uniformitarian beliefs, over millions of years, the continents kind of broke away and broke off. Now, this is a previous slide. This is a slide from a previous video that I did, and so. If you want to check that out, I tell you what, I'll put a link in the description below. I'm not sure if I did several videos with this or if it was just one video, but I will at least get the first video when I start to bring it up. And if you want to check that out, you can. And but at any rate, now there are some people in creation circles and certain creationists that also think that there was a supercontinent. And that instead of the long ages of time for the continents to break away, that they actually split up into what we see now, when the flood happened. And that everything was pretty much going on under the water. And so, but there are those that think that when the scriptures talks about that in the days of Peleg, that the earth was divided, there are some that think that that's when the continental drift happened, is during that time. And so it's a little far-fetched for me to believe. I mean, you don't just move a continent. I mean, you move a continent, you're going to cause a tremendous catastrophic thing all over the earth. And so I just don't. Personally, you do that, you're going to destroy everybody again in a catastrophic inundation of earthquakes and water and all that. And so, but that's just another thought. That's what some folks believe. So I just wanted to bring that up. I've actually failed to bring it up. It's nothing uncommon. I've done it once. I'll do it again. And but usually in the editing, I'll usually catch myself on some of these little boo-boos that I make and try to correct them on the next video. The next one I said was, I stated that when sometimes God would tell folks, parents, what to name their children. And I said boys and girls. And so in actuality, guys, I don't know of anywhere in the Bible that I can personally think of. And I've studied the Bible, so I'm on my third time through now. I really should have been done a long time ago, but I'm on my third time through. And guys, I study word for word, verse for verse, Genesis to Revelation. And so I'm on my third time through it again, and I learn something every time. Believe it or not, I learn something every time I go through it. And when I'm making my notes, sometimes I'll say, oh, I've already gotten this. So I'll look at my notes, and I'm like, oh, I don't have that. How did I miss that before? It's like that's how you grow in the Lord, and so, but, guys, I can't think of any certain area in the Bible specifically where God told a parent the name a female. And so I just can't. And so any of you that do think you might know of an area, let me know. But I can't think of one offhand. I did state that, and so I just want to clarify that God would tell the parents what to name their boys, the men. And so I can't think of a single area where God told someone in the Bible to name a female. And so, I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't mean he didn't care for them. You can clearly see that with Jesus. And so the first person he revealed himself to was a woman when he resurrected from the dead. And so, there's a lot. Jesus cared a lot about women and stuff. And so, the Christianity as a whole lifts up the woman. And so, and it's other cultures and stuff that bring down a woman into a slave almost. They think of them as chattel, something to own. And but I will say, I need to kind of retract that statement that I made about God telling parents to name their female. I just can't right offhand. And so that may be insignificant to some, but when it comes to the Bible, guys, I don't want to mess around with it. You don't want to add or take away from that. And so if it's an opinion, I'll tell you it's an opinion. If I don't know, I'll just say I don't know. And so, but other than that, I think that's all I got on my notes. But we're going to go through some really interesting information, and I'm hoping I can get all this done in just one video, but I'm really going to go through a lot that Immanuel Velikovsky has about the Tower of Babel and some of the things that he was actually able to dig up in other cultures and what they wrote about the Tower of Babel. And these cultures had knowledge about the flood and the Tower of Babel. And the confusion of languages, it's all there. And so the past several videos that we've done, this one right here is going to be the 6th video that I've done about flood legends. And guys, there is knowledge that's there. And so what we've been doing is we've been centering our attention not only on just flood legends, but also the Tower of Babel and the confusion of languages. It just seems that the cultures write about that all at one. That was an event that they wrote about. And it follows right in line. You got the flood, and then they wrote about the tower, and then the confusion of languages. And some of them would talk about how they repopulated the world. And sometimes it's right after the flood, and that they mention. But if you'll notice on the screen here, we are going to go through. I'm just going to read the scriptures in Genesis chapter 11, 1 through 9, as a catapult to catapult us into this topic. That way you'll know the narrative, the Bible narrative, and then we're going to go into what Immanuel Velikovsky was able to dig up in these other cultures and stuff. And the pattern is there, guys. These people, there's more to it than just being coincidence. It being coincidence. And it also the fact that these cultures knew about a Bible event, a historical Bible event, says more about the Bible. It says more about it. And so, and these cultures had these stories before missionaries came to see them and to preach the gospel to them. They already had knowledge of this stuff. And so, but at any rate, let's go ahead and let's get started through this. And some things should automatically jump out at you because we've already been talking about them. And so, but starting off, now this is going to be King James. I use the King James Bible. And so, and the whole earth, starting off in Genesis 11, 1 through 5 here, and the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. Now, I highlighted that, guys, because that's going to be key. You're going to really need to take note of the highlights that I have. The whole earth was of one language and of one speech. Remember that. And it came to pass as they journeyed from the east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said one to another, "Go to, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly." And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar. And they said, "Go to, Let us build us a city and a tower. Remember that. And a tower whose top may reach up to heaven. Remember all the highlight I want you to remember. And let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. And so now they were going against what God told them. God told them when they got out of the ark, be fruitful and multiply, fill the face of the earth. I want you to populate, go on I want you guys to spread all over this planet. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men builded. Now, Genesis 11, 6 through 9. And the Lord said, behold, the people is one. The people is one. And they have all one language. Remember this. And they have all one language. And this they begin to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. Now, for you Bible students out there, I want you to remember that word imagined, because we're going to be coming back to that later on when I start going through the days of Noah. And we're going to really hit home. I'm going to step on some toes out there on a lot of folks when I get into that area right there about the thoughts of the heart, the imaginations of the heart. But notice this. And some people might say, well, what's so bad about everybody coming together and being one? Well, the Lord is saying this right now. It's not good. It's not good. Believe it or not, in the context of not adding the Lord into their lives, it is the worst thing that could happen when you bring everybody together. But it says, and they have all one language, and this they begin to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. Let us go down, and there confound their language, that they might not understand one another's speech. So the Lord scattered them from abroad, from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city. Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did confound their language of all the earth. Now notice, I want y'all to, if you guys that remember me going through names, and the Lord saying, you're to name this, and you're to name that, because of this. There was usually a reason why, an event, something that happened. There was a reason why the Lord said, I want you to name this. Or sometimes people would pick names, for their names of their children, or maybe a name of an area to remind them of something. And so here the Lord says it. This right here is a fine example of this. This is not a person. This is a place. This is a place. And the Lord says, therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did confound their language. Now that word Babel means confusion. That's what it means. It means confusion. Now, what I'm going to do here, now this right here came from, I'm going to have a link in the description. You guys, for those of you that want to check this out for yourself, you can. But this came from a website, www.varchive.org. It's Immanuel Velikovsky's unpublished writings. But this right here, I'm going to read this, what he's been able to dig up about other cultures and what they wrote about the Tower of Babel. Guys, it's absolutely just spooky how closely related it is. And it shows that these people knew or had a knowledge about this event way long ago. And so, but going on here, it's called the confusion of languages. The confusion of languages. And this is what Immanuel Velikovsky wrote. The rabbinical sources explain that the purpose of the tower was to secure a shelter for the city of Babel in case the deluge, he's talking about the flood here, should occur another time. Now those of you with the knowledge of the story and the biblical narrative know that God at the end of the flood, he sent a bow in the sky, and he swore, made an oath that he would never destroy the earth with a flood again. And so these folks here that were stating this, or the reason these folks that were even making the building the tower, they it's like they lost that already. They were already losing what God had said already. They had done forgot it, and so God had already told them that He wasn't going to flood them again, and so He made that promise. And so, but at any rate, the men who were before us, God has destroyed with a deluge. If He shall again think fit to be wroth with us and seek to destroy us, even with a deluge, we shall all perish to a man. But come, let us prepare bricks and burn them with fire, that they may withstand the waters. And building them together with asphalt, let us make a high tower, the top of which shall reach to heaven, in order that, being delivered from the deluge, we may find safely in the tower. Now, I know the Lord had to be upset because He told them, He told Noah that He was never going to flood the planet again like He did. And so I'm sure now that's one thing. God takes a real personal attack whenever people don't take faith in His word and believe what He says. And so I'm sure this right here was one of those reasons why He decided to destroy the Tower of Babel, even though it's not stated in the scriptures. It's just man being man is going to do what he wants to do and not what God wants him to do, and doesn't even listen to God, what He even said from the get-go. It says, this purpose of the builders is found also in an account of this catastrophe, which the Aborigines of Central America transmitted from generation to generation. Now, whatever that word is, after narrating the story of the deluge, which brought to a close the first world age, I'm gonna try that one. Antonetua, and destroyed most of mankind, described the catastrophe which ended the second age, or that word right there, which means the son of wind, the son of wind. Now, going on, it says, and as men were thereafter multiplying, they constructed a very high and strong zuqueli, which means a very high tower, in order to protect themselves. Again, the second world should be destroyed. At the crucial moment of their language, their languages were changed. And as they did not understand one another, they went into different parts of the world. Sounds familiar, don't it? The same author gives another version of the same catastrophe. When 1,715 years had passed since the deluge, that's the flood, men were destroyed by a violent hurricane, which carried off trees, mountains, houses, and people, and great buildings. Although many men and women escaped, especially those that were able to take refuge in caves and places where this great hurricane could not reach. Similarly, wrote in Gomera, the wind which occurred at the time was so great and of such force that it overthrew all buildings and trees and even broke mountains apart. Many of the sources which recount the destruction of the Tower of Babel maintain in close accord with the Mexican account that the catastrophe was caused by a violent wind. Thus, the Sibyl is said to have prophesied when are fulfilled the threats of the great God with which he threatened men when formerly in the Assyrian land they built a tower, and all were of one speech, and wished to rise even till they climbed unto the starry heaven. Sounds familiar. Then the immortal raised a mighty wind and laid upon them strong necessity. For when the wind threw down the mighty tower, then rose among mankind fierce strife and hate. Fierce strife and hate. Now, do we have that today? We sure do. I'm telling you what, guys, we cannot get along. We cannot get along. I'm telling you what, you get on any social media platform, and that is the first thing you'll see. the first thing you'll see. I just tell you what, it really, social media could really be a good thing. But because people are just people, they just will not get along. And it don't take long. I've heard of this one thing called hate. It's called rage bait, where people are actually posting things to tick people off on purpose, and so they can make money off of it. They can make money off of views and stuff like that. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, and I'm starting to see this pattern on YouTube also. And so, but going on. One speech was changed into many dialects, and earth was filled with diverse tribes and kings. And so, again, you're seeing this flavor here. It's matching the biblical narrative. In the book of Jubilees, it is said that the Lord sent a mighty wind against the tower and overthrew it upon the earth. The Babylonian account, as transmitted by whatever his name is, tells that once men built a high tower where now is Babylon, and when it was already close to heaven, the gods sent winds and ruined the entire scheme. And men, having till then been all the same speech, received from the gods many languages. Other accounts give the impression that a strong electrical discharge, possibly from an overcharged ionosphere, found a contact body in the high structure. According to a tradition known as the 12th century traveler Benjamin of Tudela, fire from heaven fell in the midst of the tower and broke it asunder. In the Tractate Sanhedrin of Babylonian Talmud, it is said a third of the tower was burnt, a third sank into the earth, and a third is still standing. And so now let me remind you guys that as far as I know, Immanuel Velikovsky is not a believer. He doesn't state it, even in his interviews or anything I've been able to find. He is a Jew, but he may look at more of a natural reasoning for this stuff to happen. Though I'm going to tell you right now, I don't care how many electrical shocks you get. I don't believe anybody can create their own language. So, but at any rate, the Tower of Babel story was found in the most remote parts of the world prior to the arrival of missionaries in those places, thus before the biblical account became known to the Aborigines. For instance, on the island of Hio, part of the Pamudu or Talmudu Islands in Polynesia, the people used to tell that after a great flood, the sons of Rada who survived made an attempt to erect a building by which they could reach the sky and see the creator god, Vatia or Atia. But the god in anger chased the builders away, broke down the building, and changed their language so that they spoke diverse tongues. Isn't that interesting? The question of biblical influence was discussed by the folklorists. The natives of Hio, declared that this tradition existed already with their ancestors before the arrival of Europeans. I leave to them the responsibility for this declaration. All I can certify is that this tradition contains many ancient words which today are no longer understood by the natives. Popul Vuh, the sacred book of the Quiche Mayas, narrates that the language of all the families that were gathered at Tulan was confused and none could understand the speech of others. The Casca Indian story makes the result into the cause. Excuse me. The Indians narrate that a great darkness came on and high winds which drove the vessels hither and thither. The people became separated. Some were driven away. Long afterwards, when in their wanderings they met people from another place, they spoke different languages and could not understand one another. With this exception, the Casca story may refer to any great upheaval and is actually an effect of large-scale migrations, the traditions of the peoples make the catastrophe the immediate cause of the confusion of languages and the dispersion as well. While the account in Genesis and that given by Ebidenus, and other various other sources connect the story with a certain place in Mesopotamia, other traditions localize it in many different countries. In each case, the entire population of the world is said to have been affected. If the nature of the catastrophe was cosmic, the same occurrence could have taken place in different countries. In this case, the existence of similar traditions in many corners of the globe is of no avail for tracing the migration of ancient tribes. The Arabic tradition makes South Arabia the scene of the upheaval, followed by confusion of languages and migrations. Similar experiences could have been brought about by one and the same cause in many places. It appears that after the flood, the plain of Mesopotamia became one of the few cultural centers of the world. Another flood would have caused the utter destruction of the human race, and this was feared because the memory of the flood a few centuries earlier was very vivid. Observations of the movements of the heavenly bodies may have provided a warning of a new catastrophe, and large structures were built for refuge. But when the event came, the structures were overwhelmed and destroyed by hurricanes and powerful electrical discharges. In the rabbinical concept of the seven earths, molded one out of another in successive catastrophes, the generation which built the Tower of Babel inhabited the fourth earth, but it goes on to the fifth earth, where the men became oblivious of their origin and home. Those who built the Tower of Babel are told to forget their language. This generation is called the people who lost their memory. The earth which they inhabited was the fifth earth, that of oblivion. And I will say this, if they just believed God for what he said, now whether that wasn't passed down like it should have been from parent to child, God stated that he wasn't going to destroy them again by a flood. And the next time it's going to be by fire. And so now going on, lastly, we're rounding this up. In the ancient Mexican traditions, it is told that those who survived the catastrophe of the son of wind lost their reasons and speech. Their reason and speech. The characteristic of this catastrophe was its influence upon the mental or mnemonic capacities of the people. Now, that word mnemonic means a device such as a pattern of letters, ideas, or associations that assist in the remembering of something, aiding or designed to aid the memory. Going on, it says the description of it as told by many tribes of peoples, if it contains authentic figures, arouses the surmise that the earth underwent an electromagnetic disturbance and that the human race experienced something that in modern terms seems like a consequence of a deep electrical shock. The application of electrical current in the head of a human being often results in a partial loss of memory. Also, a loss of speech may be induced by the application of electrodes to specific areas of the brain. And I will say that I really disagree with, and I'm not debating the idea of an electrical current messing with people's memory as a brain as a whole, but you're not going to create a language by doing that. I will say that. And so now, ending up here, guys, you've got, again, this chart here that I showed before, and then you've got the languages. They dispersed from there. And we don't have different races of people. We're all the same as far as we're all one human race. What you have is just different shades of people. And I will show these two young ladies here from time to time. They are part Jamaican. They have a part Jamaican mother and a white father. Same parents. These girls are twins. And so you can see how the genetic diversity is in us. We all have it. And so you can procreate with anybody on the planet as long as biologically that you can. There's nothing else, no mutations or anything like that. But at any rate, if you want to learn more, Immanuel Velikovsky, I will have some links in the description for you guys to go to, and so you can learn more. I'll put his interview that I found on YouTube. That will be in the description, and I will put a link on his archives from some of his unpublished writings, which is absolutely just fascinating. It's a really good website, and so that's where I got the information I just read to you. And but this right here, Earth in Upheaval, Velikovsky, Worlds in Collision, and Mankind in Amnesia. These are audiobooks I did find on www.audiobooksnow.com. They are in audiobook form. I do have these, and I am listening to these. And if you want to learn more about flood legends, this is a good book to get by Charles Martin called Flood Legends, Global Clues to a Common Event. I do have this book, and I shared some information from this book. And so it is a very good book. And also Dinosaurs by Design by Dwayne T. Gish. He also shares some flood legends in his book also. And so now we're going to stop right there. And guys, when we come back, we are going to look at, I'm going to kind of rabbit trail because when I was going through this type of information at a church, when I was packing up my stuff, I had somebody ask, they were just talking amongst each other, people that were leaving, and I heard somebody ask this question. And so I'm going to wait and leave that question for the next video. And so, but we're going to tackle it. And it's one that you have heard about. I guarantee it. You have heard about it, or you will hear about it. And it's one that evolutionists have brought up to make us creationists and us Christians look like a bunch of fools. And so, but we're going to talk about that, and I'm going to give you a biblical answer to that. And so you guys take care. I love you. I hope the Lord blesses you real good. Bye-bye.